It's Sunday, February 5th, 2023. Anna and I just got back last night from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association convention in New Orleans. We were down there helping with the Texas Wagyu Association with their booth, and we actually ran into some people that had seen my YouTube channel, watched some of the video, and I got some questions about when we pulled that calf a couple weeks ago and made that video. There were people that were asking a little bit about that process, and watch out there, cat, about that process and the calving bag. People were wanting to know what was in my calving bag and what it was used for. I need to clear a couple things up, I guess, before we get started. The videos that I'm making are not how-to videos, like I talked about in my introduction. Basically, people are just following along behind me and watching the things that we do, and I guess it's more what we do as opposed to how we do it. So if you do something different than I do it, you know, that's what makes horse races, differences of opinion. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit today about what we use and how we use it, specifically when we're dealing with a calving issue, and that usually means pulling a calf. And another thing that I want to talk about is my videos are all basically real time. If it takes 30 minutes to do the chores, it's going to take pretty close to 30 minutes for you to watch me to do the chores. We're raising a generation of younger people that, through watching social media and the way they speed things up and slow things down, we've got kids that think you can paint a house in 6 minutes or make a dessert by throwing some waffles and some Oreos in a cake pan and putting a yellow cake mix on it and a can of evaporated milk and having dessert in 90 seconds. The world just doesn't work like that. I don't work like that. And my videos don't work like that. Well, anyway, a couple weeks ago, we pulled a calf. We made a video. We posted it. Okay, keep going. Atta girl, keep going. Good girl, good job. You're doing great, honey. Okay, we got a calf. Okay. Okay, there's some towels in that bag. Okay. All right. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I need more towels. Good girl. Do I have one more? There we go. Hey, little guy. Little girl. What are you? All right. Okay. Okay, come around and... Okay. We'll give her a minute. All right. Wasn't that something? Hey, good morning. How you doing, little guy? And one of the biggest questions I'm getting a little bit is about what we're using to pull that calf, to actually pull that calf. So I'm going to show you what we have in the calving bag. I've got this rope with hooks on both ends, and I've got a 10-foot fairly light chain. You can see them right there. Both of those are just to find something solid to tie to. The calf that we pulled in the barn, we were fortunate. There was quite a bit to tie to. Nothing really close. We ended up going over to a gate that was about 15 or 20 feet away. But I had enough chain and rope and come along to reach that gate, and get that calf pulled out of there. We usually don't pull calves in the barn. That was a heifer, and we knew she was going to calf, and we were keeping an eye on her, so we had her pulled up to the maternity pen. We got lucky. She laid down. We pulled the calf. up at the barn at the maternity pen. I also have a squeeze chute that's right outside of the maternity pen. I don't like to pull a calf in a squeeze chute. I can, and we will. I like it to be as natural as possible, and sometimes it's harder. You want to pull that calf a little bit, kind of, if it's standing up in a squeeze chute, you got to pull down a little bit to make that calf a little bit easier to get out of there. But I try to avoid the squeeze chute. I use it if I have to, but I'd prefer to just have the cow laid down. The other day we got lucky and the cow laid down. She's a pretty gentle cow, and she was pretty far into the labor process. She'd struggled with it for a little bit, so she didn't have a lot of excess energy to spend, so she laid down. I didn't have to neck her to anything. I didn't have to tie her up. I've got a couple of ropes, just regular team ropes. I use them more if I'm out in a pasture, but I can neck a cow to something with a rope if I have to. So I prefer not to, but if I have to. All of this stuff pretty much stays in the truck. I know where to find it. That's another good thing, is you want to keep all this stuff together to where if you actually need it, you can find it. So anyway, on the pulling process, tie onto something solid with either a chain or a piece of rope. And I've actually got in my bag, I've got some more rope, and I don't even know, this is 15 feet more. A lot of times out in the country, you're quite a ways from anything solid. Usually you end up tying to the truck if there's nothing else, or a petrified cow pie or a tumbleweed, but a lot of cattle don't like the truck right up next to them, so you need to be able to get a little bit further away. So you found something substantial that'll support the pull. You tie the come along right there, and I like a come along that's tied back into itself rather than just the cable going straight out. It seems like this kind pulls a little bit slower, and you've got a little bit more leverage. You don't necessarily have to put a lot of effort in it to make this come along work. So you want the come along mechanism actually closer to where the action is. Your arms are only so long. If you're by yourself, you're going to need one hand to work the come along and the other hand to work on the calf. So we just would tie the come along on like this, and then this is simply a lead rope that we have. It's got a good substantial solid hook on it, and this is what we use on the other end of the come along, and we use the lead rope to actually tie onto the calf. And hopefully, if you've got 2 feet sticking out, this isn't that difficult normally. If you can get a couple of feet, you can tie onto it with that lead rope. It's not that hard. Just come around behind, and make a couple loops, and they'll slide right off. Turn it back onto itself like this, and as soon as if you see that calf that we pulled in the video, I mean, this just fell off when we were done. It falls off and we get it out of the way. If you've got at least 1 foot, you can work with it. If you got 2, that's even better. But let's say you need to pull that calf and you don't have any feet. So that's when you need to start trying to figure out if that calf is forwards or backwards breech, however it's going to come. Do yourself a favor if you're going to go into that cow trying to figure out what's going on with the calf. Do yourself and whoever does your laundry a favor and use an OB glove. If you're going to use a glove, pretty good idea to just use some lube too. Makes things a lot easier, and it makes it a little easier for that calf to come out if everything is not full of sawdust and dry manure. If you have to go in and tie onto a hoof, get a hold of a hoof, this is an OB chain, and these things work fairly well. You want to put it around like this, and I like to use my thumb. I put it like that to where when I go in, a lot of times if you don't hold it with your thumb, if you don't have some way to keep the chain up on the end of your hand, if you've got a lot of glove on with some lube, a lot of times that chain will try to slide up your arm as you're going in. But if you use your thumb to keep the chain on your hand, once you get in there, you can get a hold of a foot, and you can usually work that chain down onto the foot. And once you've got the foot above the hock, then you can start working that foot, at least one. If you're lucky, you've got another one right there close where you can flip the chain and catch it. Anyway, try to get a foot out. I don't particularly like OB chains. I mean, you can use them if you have to. They break once in a while. And if you get to the point where you're pulling a calf and you're breaking OB chains, you're probably to the point where you need to be more concerned about saving that cow than the calf. If you're breaking OB chains, I have this. And it's not necessarily designed for that, but it will work. If you're breaking chains, this isn't going to break. If you can get the cow to the vet, as a last resort, you can go in this way and try to make some progress. A lot of times it's more difficult than most people can deal with. I'll just leave it at that. If you've got a forward presentation calf, if you've got 2 feet and a head coming at you, those are the easy ones. If you pull a breech calf, if you can get a back leg, get 2 and pull, you're going to have to get that calf out fairly quick. You pull them slow, and they tend to like inhale the amniotic fluid, fluid out of the sac. You need to be careful. You need to get busy, get the calf pulled, get him out, and try to get him, get him dumped out where you don't have fluid in the lungs. But anyway, you've pulled the calf. It was an easy presentation. This is just more stuff that I keep in my bag. I keep plenty of gloves. Keep some iodine or iodine type formula. This is for cleaning up umbilical cords. Pig and string, which usually you won't ever need, but from time to time, I've actually used these to tie a couple of feet together on a cow to keep her from standing up and coming up the rope at me. Very seldom would you ever need a pig and string, but I've got one in there. We talked about the rope for extension and pull. Plenty of towels. It's kind of a mess. I keep plenty of towels in there. Apparently, according to my wife, there's something about towels. You want to make sure and use the old ones and not the good ones that she's saving for company. But these are all approved. So these are good towels. Those are the towels that have been approved to go in the bag. Later on, if you can't get that cow to take that calf, there's 2 or 3 products, and they're all available. I use Valley Vet. This stuff is pretty good. If this doesn't work, this usually does. This seems to work most of the time, but for some reason, if one doesn't work to get that cow to take that calf, the other one will. So I've got Orphan No More and Calf Claim in that bag just so I know where I can find it. More OB chains. And like I said, I'm not a real fan of chains, but sometimes you have to use them. I've got some more gloves here. Oh, and then also in my bag, I keep ear tag. Well, that's where that thing's at. I've been looking all over for this. Anyway, you're not going to need that. Okay, but ear tags. So the next calf that we tag is going to be number 472. That's not, I mean, just since we've been using these ear tags, we've done this for a little while. We started using these ear tags about 10 years ago. It's taken us 10 years to tag 472 calves, for whatever that's worth. I guess it's just not my very first time. As far as weighing calves, we raise Wagyu cattle, and I guess with any cattle, you want to keep good birth records. And part of that process is getting a birth weight. And this is something that's kind of unique. I don't see many people doing it, but we do. This is just a bathroom scale. And I've got a little chunk of plywood that's about, I don't know, maybe 30 inches square that I put this on to stand on just to make a solid base. But I can weigh myself. I know what I weigh. And then I can pick that calf up, believe it or not, stand on that scale, and I can get a more accurate weight than I can with one of these. And we used one of these for years. I didn't particularly care for it. There's a harness kind of thing that comes with it. And I found that about half the time putting that calf in that harness it's about like trying to stuff a 2-year-old into a car seat, I guess. Or put pajamas on an infant, I don't know. But anyway, they're not easy to get in there. And once you do, you get them hooked up. And it's hard to make the thing work. It's, I guess, comparable. Remember the good old days when you could still spank your kids? and you'd be at the Piggly Wiggly in the cereal aisle, and you'd be trying to buy cornflakes, and the kids would be stuffing Captain Crunch and Tutti Fruities and stuff into the cart, and you finally put up with it to the point where somebody got a swat. You remember how you'd grab your kids by the sleeve and they'd run around in a circle while you were trying to swat them? That's kind of what it's like trying to weigh a calf with one of those in a harness, so I try to avoid it. Most of these Wagyu calves weigh between 60 and maybe 75 pounds. I can still pick them up, so I do. So anyway, we just weigh our calves, and that fits behind the seat of the truck really nice. That's about what I can think of right now for people asking about what's in the calving bag. That's what's in there. You know, if you don't do it this way, and that's fine. You know, whatever it takes to make things work on your ranch, this is what works on our ranch. So I hope this helped to answer any questions that you might have. Later on, when we get to calving, we'll start going pretty good about May, and I'll try to get some video of pulling a calf in the country, in the pasture, because it's quite a bit different than pulling one in the barn like we did last week. But anyway, thanks for sharing the time with me, and I look forward to talking with you later.